Welcome to the Discourse Analyzer AI Toolkit, where articles come alive. You're listening to the audio version of our article. For the full text and an interactive experience, check out the link in the description below. Interact with any selection using our AI assistant to enhance your understanding. Let's explore.
Societal change in discourse analysis. Societal change in discourse analysis refers to the examination of how shifts in social values, norms, ideologies, and power structures are reflected in and driven by language. Discourse analysis provides a method for studying how language contributes to both the reproduction and transformation of societal structures. It helps to uncover how discourse shapes, reflects, and facilitates social changes in areas such as politics, culture, identity, and institutions. By analyzing the ways in which language is used in media, politics, social movements, education, and everyday communication, discourse analysts can explore how societal change occurs and how it is contested. Language is not just a tool for communication. It is a mechanism through which new ideas and social arrangements are negotiated and established. Key aspects of societal change in discourse analysis. Point 1. Language as a driver of change. Discourse is a central tool for promoting new ideas and facilitating change. Language can shape public opinion, influence policy, and alter societal norms by introducing new ways of thinking, challenging the status quo, and fostering solidarity around emerging movements or values. Example: the emergence of gender-neutral pronouns, such as they, them, reflects a shift in societal values towards greater inclusivity of non-binary and transgender individuals. Discourse analysis of media coverage or public debates around gender pronouns reveals how language shapes the broader acceptance and normalization of new gender identities, contributing to societal change regarding gender norms and identity. Point 2. Challenging dominant discourses. Discourse analysis often focuses on how dominant discourses that uphold existing power structures are challenged or resisted by marginalized groups. By analyzing counter-discourses, researchers can examine how language is used to question or subvert traditional ideologies, leading to shifts in societal values and power relations. Example: in the context of racial justice movements like Black Lives Matter, discourse analysis examines how language challenges dominant narratives that legitimize police violence or systemic racism. By using terms like systemic racism or police brutality, activists disrupt the narrative of law enforcement as inherently just, shifting societal conversations towards greater accountability and reform. Point 3. Framing of social issues. The way social issues are framed in discourse, through media, politics, or public debate, plays a critical role in how these issues are understood and acted upon. Discourse analysis reveals how framing shapes societal attitudes and facilitates change by making certain aspects of an issue more salient while downplaying others. Example: the framing of climate change as a climate crisis or global emergency has contributed to increasing public urgency for environmental action. Discourse analysis would focus on how this language contrasts with earlier frames of climate change as a scientific or environmental issue disconnected from immediate human concerns. The shift in framing reflects and contributes to changes in societal attitudes towards environmental responsibility. Point 4. Identity construction and social change. Discourse plays a crucial role in the construction of identities and the negotiation of social roles. As societal values shift, the language used to construct personal and collective identities changes as well. Discourse analysis allows researchers to explore how these changes in identity construction reflect broader social transformations. Example: the discourse surrounding LGBTQ+ rights has shifted dramatically in recent decades, with terms like marriage equality replacing earlier debates about the definition of marriage. Discourse analysis can trace how this change in language reflects broader societal acceptance of LGBTQ+ identities and contributes to legal and social reforms. Point 5. Power and ideology. Discourse analysis reveals how power relations and ideologies are maintained or contested through language. As societal change occurs, new ideologies may emerge or gain prominence, challenging established power structures. Discourse analysis can track how language reflects these shifts in power and ideology. Example: in political discourse, the rise of populism in many countries has introduced new narratives that frame elites as out of touch and corrupt, while positioning the common people as the rightful holders of political power. Discourse analysis of populist rhetoric examines how this shift in language challenges traditional political elites and reflects broader changes in societal attitudes towards governance and authority. Methods for analyzing societal change in discourse. Point 1. Critical discourse analysis, CDA. Critical discourse analysis, CDA, is one of the most effective methods for studying societal change through language. CDA focuses on how discourse reflects and perpetuates power relations, and how these relations are transformed as new discourses emerge. CDA is particularly useful for examining how marginalized groups use language to challenge dominant ideologies and promote social change. Example: a CDA of feminist movements would explore how discourse has shifted from focusing on women's suffrage and employment rights to include broader issues of bodily autonomy, intersectionality, and gender diversity. The analysis would reveal how language has evolved to address new social and political challenges while reflecting changes in feminist ideology. Point 2. Framing analysis. Framing analysis is used to study how social issues are presented and understood within discourse. By analyzing the frames through which issues are discussed, researchers can uncover how societal values shift in response to new ways of thinking about problems, challenges, or opportunities. Example: in the context of healthcare reform, framing analysis might reveal how discourse has shifted from framing healthcare as a commodity, affordable care, to a human right, universal healthcare. This change in framing reflects evolving societal values around access to healthcare, influenced by both political movements and public advocacy. Point 3. Historical discourse analysis. Historical discourse analysis examines how language and discourse evolve over time, revealing the gradual shifts in societal values and ideologies. By comparing discourse from different time periods, researchers can trace how language has reflected or driven societal changes across historical contexts. Example: an analysis of the language used in civil rights discourse in the United States might compare speeches from the 1960s civil rights movement with those of the contemporary Black Lives Matter movement. The analysis could uncover how the discourse around racial justice has evolved and how historical contexts influence the framing of rights, justice, and equality. Point 4. Narrative analysis. Narrative analysis focuses on how stories and personal experiences are used to communicate and shape societal change. Social movements and cultural shifts often rely on compelling narratives to challenge existing power structures and build collective identities. Example: in analyzing the narratives of the #MeToo movement, discourse analysts would focus on how personal stories of survivors of sexual harassment and assault contribute to societal changes in how these issues are perceived and addressed. The analysis would explore how these narratives challenge institutional power dynamics and push for changes in both legal frameworks and social attitudes. Examples of societal change in discourse analysis. Example 1. Gender equality movements. Discourse analysis of gender equality movements reveals how societal attitudes toward gender roles and women's rights have evolved. For example, the shift from women's liberation in the 1960s and 70s to contemporary discourse around gender equality and intersectionality reflects a broadening of feminist goals to include diverse gender identities and the recognition of intersecting oppressions, such as race, class, and sexuality. Discourse analysis would examine how language has changed to reflect more inclusive understandings of gender and power. Example 2. Environmentalism and climate change. Environmental discourse has evolved from niche scientific concerns to mainstream political and social debates, largely due to shifts in language and framing. Early discourse around environmentalism focused on conservation and pollution control, but more recent language emphasizes the climate crisis and sustainability. This shift reflects changes in societal values, with greater public recognition of the need for urgent global action. Discourse analysis would explore how the language used by environmental movements has influenced both public opinion and policy decisions. Example 3. The rise of populism. In political discourse, the rise of populist movements across various countries has led to shifts in language that emphasize the divide between the people and the elite. Discourse analysis would examine how populist leaders use language to tap into societal dissatisfaction, framing themselves as representatives of the common people while challenging traditional political elites. This analysis could explore how populist rhetoric reflects changing societal attitudes toward democracy, authority, and governance. Challenges in analyzing societal change through discourse. Point 1. Identifying gradual change. Societal change often occurs gradually, making it difficult to pinpoint specific moments when discourse shifts. Discourse analysts must look for subtle linguistic shifts over time and examine how these changes accumulate to produce broader social transformation. Point 2. Multiple discourses and contradictions. Societal change is often accompanied by competing discourses that reflect conflicting values and ideologies. Discourse analysts must navigate these contradictions to understand how language reflects the complex and sometimes contradictory nature of societal change. Point 3. Contextual influences. Societal change is deeply influenced by historical, political, and cultural contexts. Discourse analysts must consider these factors when interpreting how language reflects or drives social transformation, as the same discourse may have different meanings or effects in different contexts. Conclusion. Discourse analysis offers valuable insights into how societal change is reflected, negotiated, and driven by language. By analyzing shifts in discourse across political movements, social justice campaigns, media representations, and everyday communication, researchers can uncover how societal values evolve and how new ideologies emerge to challenge dominant power structures. Whether examining the rise of gender inclusivity, environmental activism, or populist rhetoric, discourse analysis reveals the central role of language in shaping the world around us and in facilitating social change. Frequently asked questions. What is societal change in discourse analysis? Societal change in discourse analysis refers to the study of how shifts in social values, norms, ideologies, and power structures are reflected in and influenced by language. This analysis helps to understand how language both reflects and drives transformations in society. How does language drive societal change? Language shapes societal change by introducing new ideas, challenging the status quo, and influencing public opinion. Discourse plays a role in shaping policy, framing social issues, and promoting new norms that reflect shifts in societal values. How does discourse analysis uncover challenges to dominant discourses? Discourse analysis examines counter-discourses used by marginalized groups to question or resist dominant ideologies. This helps reveal how language is employed to challenge established power structures and promote shifts in societal values and power relations. What role does framing play in societal change? Framing shapes how social issues are presented and understood. By focusing on certain aspects of an issue while downplaying others, framing in discourse influences how societal attitudes evolve and what actions are taken in response to issues like climate change, healthcare, or immigration. How does discourse construct and reflect changing identities? Language is essential in constructing personal and collective identities. As societal values shift, discourse adapts to reflect new social roles and identities, such as changes in how LGBTQ+ identities are discussed, reflecting broader acceptance and inclusivity. What methods are used to analyze societal change in discourse? Methods include critical discourse analysis, CDA, framing analysis, historical discourse analysis, and narrative analysis. These approaches allow researchers to explore how language reflects power dynamics, historical shifts, and the framing of social issues over time. How does critical discourse analysis, CDA, examine societal change? CDA focuses on how power relations are reflected and challenged in language. It examines how marginalized groups use discourse to promote societal change by challenging dominant ideologies and pushing for reforms in areas like gender, race, and economic inequality. What is historical discourse analysis? Historical discourse analysis compares language from different time periods to trace changes in societal values and ideologies. It helps reveal how discourse evolves and how language reflects shifts in social norms, identities, and power structures over time. How do societal changes appear in discourse around social movements? Social movements often reflect societal changes through shifts in language. Movements like Black Lives Matter or LGBTQ+ rights use discourse to challenge dominant narratives, reframing issues in ways that push for legal, social, and cultural reforms. What are the challenges in analyzing societal change through discourse? Challenges include identifying gradual language shifts, navigating competing discourses with conflicting values, and considering contextual influences like politics and culture, which can affect how societal change is expressed and interpreted in discourse.